Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool arcade game repair video for you this evening, or pinball repair game video. Now, if you didn't watch part one of this, do yourself a favor and go check that out, because we went through a bunch of craziness in part one. Basically, we have this pinball. It's a Dungeons and Dragons that we bought at an auction. The thing had caught on fire. So we're working through getting the thing back up and running, even though it was severely damaged. So if you saw the other video, we had power problems and the power board had burnt up, and we had all kinds of problems with the wiring. So we have been working through that and have gotten a little progress. Now, when we left off in the last video, we had just figured out that the transformer was fine, even though they had been hacking it up. So we were able to put things back the way they're supposed to be, and all the voltages tested out. We have a brand new power board that we bought at great cost. These things are fairly expensive. There's a gentleman on eBay who makes these, but he does an excellent job. And now that we've got it installed and everything, we had this is metallic, this background, and that had been all messed up by the fire, so a lot of it was missing behind this board. And we were just going to leave it like that, but then we started thinking about it. Since that's conductive, this actually conducts electricity. If that curls up behind the board and touches something, it would short out and make all kinds of problems. And start another fire. So we just hopefully blow a fuse this time instead of starting a fire. So what we did was we took a piece of poster board and cut a piece bigger than the actual power board and covered up the parts behind that were damaged, that you can see in the previous video. So we covered that up with that poster board, and then we mounted our new board on there. And so now we have power coming up and into the transformer, which we knew was fine, and then out the transformer, which we knew those voltages were fine. And we plugged it into our brand new power board, and what you know, all of the power is working fine. If you look closely, these new boards actually have little LEDs by all of the fuses, so it makes it real easy to see at a glance that everything's working right. And all of my LEDs are on because all of the voltages are right. So then we needed to go ahead and tackle the big gorilla in the room and start fixing the burnt up wires. So we started doing that. So the first one, let me see if I can find what I did with my little piece that I pulled off. Where is it? Here it is. So in the last video, we had figured out that a big chunk of the wiring we were able to just remove from the cabinet, and that left all of this wiring here coming out of the bottom of the cabinet and right now hanging down on the side of the pinball machine. All of this wiring comes from the playfield. None of it is plugged in right now, which is why some of it's still burnt up. If any of this was actually already plugged in, you'd have big problems. The stuff's all shorted together and everything. So what we did was I cut off a piece wire by wire. Look at that. Sorry folks, I had a customer come in. So anyway, what we did was, this was what was this harness originally. And then you've also got all of these that were part of it. So we separated all of these out. These are just switches. And like I said, they're not plugged in right now, so it doesn't matter that they're all screwed up. And we took all of these thicker power wires. You can see they've still got the connectors on the end where they plugged into the socket. We took all these thicker power wires and cut them apart one at a time. So like this black wire, we cut it, and then we soldered a new black wire, thicker black wire to it, and then put some heat shrink tubing on it to make a nice little splice. And put a new connector on the end and put it back in the original connector housing. And just for giggles, once we got all that done and nice and clean and everything's connected and there's nothing burnt anymore, see, we cut out all the burnt part. Once we cut all that off and got everything where it's nice and solid again, we plugged it in and turned it on, and now the playfield, which has been in a warehouse for forever after it caught on fire, we've got the lights working again on the playfield. So we're to the point where the thing's starting to come back to life. Now, of course, you can't play it or anything yet because we don't have the CPU back in it. but we'll be working on that in this very video. You will see that by the end of this video. So I just wanted to film a little video showing you that we did get our first wires cut out and replaced, and it worked like we thought it was going to do. So the next thing I have to do is work through these switches to get that right. And then I had an entire connector, like I was mentioning, an entire harness that I was able to remove from the cabinet where I can work on a bench, but I'm going to have to do the same thing. Replace all of this burnt part. All of this down here is fine, but you've got this big part in the middle, so I have to go through every single wire and cut a new wire and put it into a new connector, or the old connector if I can save it. So I'll do a little more of it and come back here in a minute and show you as it starts going back together. We've got stuff hanging on the side of the cabinet here that I'm going to work on first, so we'll do that and be back in a minute. Alright folks, so we made some more progress. All of these wires hanging down on the side here are fine. They will eventually go back in. They come up the middle to about right there, and then they branch off this way, and then some of them go up. But the only reason we haven't put them back in yet is because I still have this one bit here, this one little branch I still have to replace, but that's coming up. So here's where we ended up with the part. Of course, you already saw that, but then we had all of those, I think they're switch wires. They may be lamp wires, but we'll call them switch wires. All those switch wires were all screwed up, so I cut them off one by one everywhere that it was burned. And then since we have an arcade shop, we've got all kinds of wire laying around just that we've got over the years out of other machines. So I had almost every color that they used. So you see I've got like a white and purple, white and orange, white and green, white and red. That's very similar to the original wires that were burned up. As you can see down here, these are the original wires before it got to the part that burned up. And so the reason this is zip tied like this, that's how it originally was, is because once you lay this back up here, that plug goes about right here on the CPU board. So that will plug right in. We got a nice new connector on it. We do a lot of connectors on arcade games and stuff, so we've always got this kind of stuff in stock. So once I had the new wires, and of course I soldered them together and then used heat shrink tubing on each one. Once I had the new wires, I put a new pin on it and a new connector here. Here's the old piece. That's what I pulled off. The reason it's all sprayed out like that is because I went through and grabbed the first wire and then pulled it back out of the bundle and found out which color it was, and then cut the wire and then connected it and then put a new connector into a new pin into the new connector, and I did them one by one until they're all replaced. So we've fixed that whole branch. Look, no burns. And so we're going to do the exact same thing with this one. So that's enough for today. I will come back in the morning and start in on that. So I'll film a video once I get it finished, and we can lay all the wires back up in there where they go. And then remember, after that, I still have that whole bundle of wires that was the Bakbox harness. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, we're back. So I finished up all of the wiring that was the playfield. So all of that is now snaking back up where it goes and has its new connectors. This is the new stuff that I did. You can see where I spliced it in there and put heat shrink tubing on everything. And then this was the other set that I did. Same thing. You can see all of the places that were burned were the parts that were right over this area of the power board. So we've got all of the wiring from the playfield routed back up into place where it goes, and the back box wiring is still missing because we haven't done it yet, and I still need to put the main board back in. So here is the main board. We're thinking we may be able to salvage this. A lot of this is just smoke damage. It didn't really burn through the traces or anything. So we're going to try to clean it up a little bit. Don't know how well it'll clean up as far as cosmetically. And then we're going to check all of those resistors and things, and we're going to check the continuity on these pins down here. And the back, you can get a little better idea. It's a little scary down there. So that's what we're working with. So we'll have to clean this up next and just see how it works out. I think high percentage chance we can save that. Now this is the solenoid driver board, and the fire was right here. And so if you look on the back, look at that, completely destroyed. That's about right where the fire started. So if you look on the new board, which is laid out exactly like the other one, there's a bunch of diodes right there that are the, it looks like the solenoid fuses, I believe. Yeah, 43 volt DC. So that would be the area that controls the solenoids, like all the flipper coils and things like that. So one of those diodes shorted or burnt up or something. We actually found some of these diodes laying in the bottom of the cabinet all messed up, but they weren't all burnt up. So what happened was they broke, shorted out or something, fell apart, and then fell down this hole into the bottom of the cabinet. And after that, I guess something caught on fire because the fuse, it was overfused. If you didn't watch the first video, we figured out that the whole problem was they had too big of a fuse in the transformer block, so nothing blew. On this one over here, you can see that the fuses actually are all screwed up, so I don't know. You know, some of that is they just got so hot that they desoldered from the board, but crazy. Look at that. So we're trying to help it. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I need to work on the harness, the Bakbox harness, and I need to work on cleaning up that main board. So we'll get on that and be back in a minute. Alright folks, so we finally got the harness finished up. I've just got it spread out here on a couple of our showcases in our store. This is what was left of the old harness that had burnt up, you know, the one that was removable. You can see how basically the reason it's all stringy is because I had to take each wire apart, and so I created this new harness. This part here was the part that goes to the displays. It was still in good shape up to here, and so from here down every little bit of it is new. So since this part, this pretty hefty part of it was all right, I was able to cut it, and I did it one wire at a time so I wouldn't get anything wrong. I was able to cut it loose, and then like for instance that particular one, you can see where the heat shrink tubing is here. Was able to put a new wire, and it runs up to this new connector. So all of those wires were replaced, and then this entire plug here, I had to take each wire out. You can still see that the edge of the connector's charred. That won't hurt anything, it's just plastic. All new wires that ran over to here, new connector. This is actually the original connector, but all of the wires and pins were replaced. All new wires. Most of these run up here, up to here. New connector, all new wires. New connector, all new wires that run back over to here. This is the original connector where I was able to remove each pin and put the wires back, put new wires in. So I don't even know how many wires that is, people. Probably counting the other harness that's already in the game, probably 100 different wires that I replaced. So it took a while, but hey, we pulled it off. Now we need to put it all back together. We need to throw this crap in the trash finally. And then the only thing left really that's still an issue from the fire is that main board that has the smoke damage. So we're going to do what we can to clean that up next. I'll go ahead and throw this harness back in the game where it goes, and I'll work on the board. We'll film another video and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we've spent a lot more time on it, and basically we got the harness all mounted in there. It's kind of all over the place right now. I need to put the little ties back in that hold everything in place. The board we cleaned up a little bit, but a lot of that wouldn't come off, unfortunately. So we're just going to have to explain it to whoever we sell it to that it looks bad, but it works. And then we remounted the displays. Now, we're doing all this temporarily. We've still got to go back through and fix a bunch of this stuff and work on the displays and all of that. But we're just trying to test out our harness where we got everything back together. We certainly need to replace the bulb. All this looks pretty crazy, but if you would look in one of these that hasn't been caught on fire, it looks just like this. This is how they look. They just have a ton of wires. So all of these wires need to lay down here, and there's some hooks that hold them in place, and they route around and up to there. As you can see, there are plugs on the entire perimeter of the main CPU board, which controls the lights, the solenoids, everything. And then this is the soundboard up here, but it didn't have any kind of damage. So basically switches, lights, and solenoids, and then the displays. So it controls all of that. Now, here we go. We'll give it a little test. I had a little problem where this transistor had broken off. I didn't have the proper one. I substituted another one in that's similar, but it's not the right one. So this LED is supposed to blink. Because this is the wrong transistor, the LED just stays on. I've ordered that transistor, I just haven't got it in yet. But we'll turn it on and let you see what happens. Now normally it would blink 9 times on one of these Bally 6803 ones. And there it is, game over, people. I don't know why the third display doesn't show up, but it works. So I'll have to mess with that a little bit. Oh, I guess like half of it's out. So what's going on? But all in all, we have brought it back to life. Now we're back basically where we usually start with a game. Usually when we get a game, it's in this kind of shape. It'll work or kind of work, and we'll have issues that need to be repaired. So basically all we've done is repair the fire damage. But now we've got a game that we can start shopping out and working through and fixing all the lights and fixing the displays and fixing the soundboard and all that. Of course, we still have to get our header up at the top working too. That'll be fun. But we've got a couple other ones here that we'll be working on soon. These are in the shape that this one is. Basically, these two run, but they have issues. This one now works, but has issues. So we're back where we started. There's the translate down there. We're back where we basically usually start. We've pretty much eradicated the fire damage, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. We will film another video of this game once we get it all buttoned up like we always do, where we show how to go through everything, and where we show the condition everything ended up in, and play a little game for you so that you can see how fun of a game it is, or not fun of a game it is. We'll see. But we are really, really happy about getting it back up and running. Like we were saying before, a lot of people would have trashed this game. I think we really did it a favor by remaking that harness and replacing that expensive power board. But we will see you on the next video. If you like these kind of repair videos, or if you like videos where we just go over older games like this, issues we run into, and then of course videos that we make whenever we review the games after we're done fixing them up, just subscribe to us here on YouTube. Every time we get one done, we'll take a little video of it and put it up on here for all of our YouTube fans. So we are thrilled about how this turned out so far. We're thrilled that we got it working again. And now it's time to do the rest of the work to get it going. And we will see you on the next video whenever that happens.